Hi there. Are you like me, where you get repeatedly crushed on Spy because you're letting yourself become too predictable with your disguises? Never wish you could have a dedicated random disguise button? Well, unfortunately, such a command currently doesn't exist in Team Fortress 2, although there are scripts that claim to randomize your disguised class. As far as I'm aware, all of them simply create a preset order to cycle through disguises, of which the order is shuffled, which, as far as I'm concerned, is a little help more than just having a bind that cycles through your disguises. No. What we need is something truly random, where neither I nor the enemy can predict what I'll disguise as. Sounds impossible, and within the base restrictions of Team Fortress 2, it currently is. However, a user named Rufio, whom you may or may not already know of, depending on your knowledge of old school competitive players, created a useful series of scripts that utilize a piece of external software called Node to essentially choose what your next disguise class will be with effectively pure randomness. Interestingly, Rufio actually did end up making a video himself to explain things, but that video has long since been removed from his YouTube channel, though I couldn't tell you why. Not that it matters, as with time some steps have needed to change, so I'm taking it upon myself to update his guide for the modern day. We'll have to start by installing Node using the link in the description below. And after that's done, we'll make one more preparatory move, and that's creating a mostly permanent location to keep the Watcher files for Node. In my case, I've just created a file on one of my drives titled TF2 stuff, but the name doesn't really matter. Next, we'll go to Rufio's GitHub page and click the green code button to download the master file to that directory we just created and extract it. We're technically done with the zip file, but I'd recommend keeping it for the time being just in case you need to retrace your steps later on. Rename the extracted folder to simply random-disguise, removing the master tag, and enter the folder. You should see another folder named random_disguise. We need to move this file somewhere in our TF2 config directory. For brevity's sake, I'll be referring to this directory as our root. I have an altered file path for storage reasons, but if you haven't touched your Steam library storage location, you should find your TF directory here. I believe it shouldn't matter too much where in the root folder you keep the random_disguise folder. However, you will want to keep close track of the location you're placing it, and I'll cover why in a moment. For now, I'll keep it in this user folder I have in here. If memory serves, this used to be the folder you would put config overrides for master config, though nowadays it's been defunct as config uses the overrides folder instead nowadays. Once you've dragged the file over, enter the random_disguise folder and open init.cfg. In here, you want to be extremely careful with what you touch, as even a single typo can make everything not work as intended. We need to adjust the file path to make it point to the location of the rand disguise file, which should be in the same location as the init.cfg one. This script sees the CFG folder as the root, hence why I'm referring to it as such. So in my case, I just need to change the word modules here to user. Alternatively, if you haven't placed the random_disguise folder in any subfolders and just placed it square into the CFG folder, simply delete the modules segment entirely. From here, we want to go back to our CFG folder and find our autoexec config. This is a file that will automatically run any command in it when you first open the game. If you have master config, you'll find the one you want in the overrides folder. If not, you want the autoexec that's in our root folder here. In the autoexec file, simply paste this command, of course, adjusting the file path based on the init.cfg's file location. Now we save and close autoexec for the time being, and open spy.cfg in the same folder. In spy.cfg, we'll want to bind this command to a key. In my case, I'll be rebinding it to 4 for convenience and familiarity's sake, and in case I want to manually choose a disguise, I'll rebind the disguise kit to 5. An optional measure, of course, bind it to whatever key you want, though if the key you choose would interfere with another class's functionality, you'll want to adjust the other class's configs to bind your key back to whatever it's supposed to be, like so. Once you've bound your keys, we're done with the TF2 side of things for the moment, so let's get to setting up the Watcher. The Watcher is the actual piece of software that will watch the game's input logs and adjust the scripts to change what your next disguise will be. To do that, we'll need to go back to our random disguises folder where we grabbed the underscore folder from and open the Watcher folder. This next step is extremely important and very prone to screwing up. Open config.js in a text editor of your choice. Here we need to change the file path under the right underscore path section to direct to our randdisguise.cfg file. So we'll go back to our config folder and copy the file path using the URL bar at the top. Paste the file path over the preset path and remember to go back and add a second backslash on each level. It's important to the way the node reads the file path that we get our slashes right. Incidentally, this is editor Voxic. I'm recording the audio right now. I actually forgot to do that while I was recording the footage for this segment. So I ended up having to just redo everything, so it might get a bit awkward. Yeah. Remember to add randdisguise.cfg to the very end and make sure everything is encapsulated by these apostrophes here. Similarly, for the watch underscore path section, we'll want to instead paste the file path for our CFG folder. But this time we want to make sure each level instead has one / this time. And again, make sure that you can put the can underscore delete underscore random underscore disguise.cfg file on the very end and that everything is properly syntaxed. The name seems a bit random for that file, but you have to keep it the same or the script won't work. You can also choose exactly which classes you want the script to randomize through by adding comments, 2 / next to each individual class, like so. Commented classes will always be omitted and the randomizer won't add them to the list of options. Once you're done, you can save config.js and close it out, and we're 2/3 of the way done. Now we want to open Node to run the Watcher. Open your search bar and type in Node. It'll likely suggest Node with a green logo, but we actually want the node.js command prompt. Opening it, type cd, and if you're like me and you have TF2 on a separate drive, /d. If it's installed on your C drive, the same drive as your Windows files, just omit this part. And then the file path for the random-disguise directory, so in my case that would be this. Assuming you entered it correctly, it should change to the proper directory. Now we want to simply type node watcher. Oh no, a bunch of stuff that I don't really understand. It's okay, you don't need to, because I'm going to tell you how to fix it. Type cd watcher to go down a level, and type npm install debug -- save. Once that's done installing, you should get some warnings about a bunch of vulnerabilities. And this is also fixable. Typing npm audit fix -- force should clear everything up. It'll warn you that some updated files may break some code, but in this case things should still work just fine, and there's no harm in patching any vulnerabilities. Finally, type cd ... to go back up a level and try again. If it says running and a class name, mostly everything should be fully set up. Spawning as a spy, you can now press your chosen key and Node will automatically choose a randomized class based on the preferences that you set in config.js. Now technically this last step isn't really necessary, but given that you'll have to go to the effort of starting the Watcher every single time, it might help to automate things a little bit. For that, simply create a text file anywhere, name it whatever you want, and change the file extension from .txt to .bat. creating a batch file. Right-click and edit it and paste this command into it. Save and close it, and voila! You now have a one-click way to immediately start the watcher whenever you want. And that's it. It's more than a couple steps and it's fairly easy to screw up, but assuming you followed along so far, it should be working fine. If not, feel free to add me on Discord here and I'll help try to diagnose the issue since I've experienced pretty much every problem you could face in setting this up. And until next time, farewell.